live. Gosh, I love live.
Hello,
Oh, that felt like
everybody.
forever.
Oh, solid
Just
17 seconds.
waiting
Welcome,
so long.
everybody, to Chatwater, the show where we talk everything Blackwater. We talk lore. We talk history. We talk about what happened before. We talk about things in the future. Flip it around, the past. We talk about what brought us to get here. All those different things.
Oh, man.
And also sometimes like game theory and stuff. It's really rad. Oh boy, kids! Last session was
Woofty.
some low lows and some high
High
heights.
highs.
A real roller coaster.
Yeah, some real like suffocating highs, you know, and crushing lows.
There were some. It was definitely an episode that had a little bit of everything. You had like the beautiful moments with Kokanee in the tomb. Matt Roll played that so beautifully.
Bless my heart.
You had the hijinks. There were lots of hijinks.
Always.
It was fantastic.
Before we get to the real meat of the episode, I just have to talk about how excited I am, because I forgot where we left off. So I was like, oh, Bruce, like, thank you. Bruce is like a grounding influence. He'll get us into the universe. And just I forgot that like the Orphea was the thing that like just happened. And so just, oh, what are your hopes and dreams, Bruce? I want to see the world. And I'm like, oh. Letters is always recruiting.
Yes, 100%. I love
have
that.
A shipping company. He could literally see the world. Also, who would be better for a crow's nest than a kookaburra? Well, probably a crow, but still, like...
I think that's like getting real like speciesist about crows, you know?
Yeah,
like
don't assume they want to be up there.
It's called the crow's nest. That's their nest. It's like who has the best buns? Man, because they're called man buns. Like,
I mean, Princess Leia had pretty great.
Well, yeah, I'm saying elves they can do the buns, but they're not as good as man buns. Man, nah, this joke doesn't fucking work. What else has man in the title or human? We don't have anything. Fuck humanity, man. We don't have a nest. We don't.
I mean, I'd argue that men have a lot of things.
Yeah,
but
a lot
of other people don't. But
and for the purposes of this joke, like, what's labeled like what? I don't know.
Bail.
I'm trying to
bail.
We're offering you now. There we go.
Anyways, fun Minotaurs have the best boys. It's all those cowboys. No, fuck. Why am I trying to keep digging for gold in this shitty mine?
You'll find something someday.
No, I'm going to go to a different mine. I'm going to go to a different mine. Fuck.
Man, that episode, like, I find those episodes, like the whole Garyang arc, I have been like buzzing after each episode. Like I like think about it as I'm like lying down and I like will like to go to sleep, and I'll like replay the entire episode. And of course that keeps me up until like 1 o'clock in the morning, but I'm just like, I have to think it all through again. And then I get to read the joys of watching it again when I roll keep, which is always so great. Yeah, Neppy's concerned. There's my girl's got a big level of concern going on at this point. Just like an ongoing state of like mild panic is where Neppy's existing. That's the realm that she exists in right now.
And when did you figure out or have suspicions that this was Torrens' old company? Like, I feel like you had, like, the questions you asked made me feel like you had a feeling or like a sort of an instinct that this was connected to him in some way.
I think the stuff that like has gotten me before is that like anytime I see like, you know, we've come across a bunch of Caraxian outposts before. We came across one in Shinkick, which was the first one we came across. There was Sister's Watch. My sense is Brother's Watch is another one. Aphel's Calamity, I'm pretty sure, is another one. These are places we haven't been to on the map yet. Obviously, there is some form of Caraxian outpost in Cinderfall, because why the fuck would the Clockwork Dragon have been there otherwise? So, like, the Caraxian Empire went really, really far, with Caradoc being kind of their home city. I just didn't expect them to be so far north into Garyang, which is just this like desolate, frozen expanse of a continent. But seeing the tower and seeing the cog iconography of course my mind starts going to like, okay, like this must have been a Caraxian outpost. There might have been soldiers stationed here, or, you know, science or research or something. And then when it said the Silver Wolves, I was like, oh fuck, because that was Torrin's company, right? Torrin was the captain of the Silver Wolves. So Neppy just was like, this is he was here, like Torrin was here, this is where his company was stationed. And then knowing that we found Torrin in Caradoc, it was like, why was he there if this was his station? Yeah, so that
So
was, yeah.
we also learned that they were up there protecting a mining expedition that was looking for some interesting stuff, and we also found Ceresite there. There wasn't, if we break down the timeline, just for some clarification,
Yeah.
Relauven was pre this?
Yes.
Torrin.
Okay.
Yeah. So the Illyrian Empire dates back about, I want to say, anywhere between 2,500 and 5,000 years before the Dawn War. Like pretty far back, maybe closer on the 5,000 end, because most of the material gods as we know them currently had no foothold back then. Some of them were there, like Lolith and stuff like that, because the Drows did worship Lolith back then. But there was I'm assuming the makeup of what would be considered the prime material gods looks very different. Io was still around, the creator goddess, or maybe she hadn't risen at that point. She's the one who has essentially laid the dragon egg, or the god egg, the Orphea, mother of Tiamat and Bahamut. So that's why Relauven doesn't really know anything about Pelor. He doesn't know anything about the current gods as they were, Arathis and stuff like that, because they weren't around when he was alive. So Dawnmore happened, like the timeline is split into what is it? It's like it's ADW. Like 0 is the Dawn War, like when the Dawn War started, and then ADW is afterwards. I don't remember if it's like PDW, which is like pre-Dawn War, and then or if it's BDW, which is before Dawn War. I forget how I named it. But yeah, Dawn War is 0 essentially, and we are 2,376 years in the future. So my sense is those soldiers had been up there at least a couple years before the Dawn War, because Torrin was in Caradoc when it fell. So that would be 0 essentially. So those soldiers have been there for probably close to, and if he was younger, because he was in his 40s when we met him, if he looked about in his like late 20s, early 30s, that
I mean, after
probably
2,000 years, it's just chump change at that
just
point.
jump change at that point. Yeah.
You know.
So they were
My
mining
favorite
for
part-
Ceresite too, which is interesting.
I mean, maybe. We have no idea.
Wow. But the other thing that's interesting is we find the tower, the Whistling Tower.
Mm-hmm.
We find it was filled with these people, but there was also a cogman, or not cogman, Warforged.
Mm-hmm.
We also know that I always forget his name. The body of Volketh was left.
Yes.
Rysel
left the body.
Mm-hmm.
So it would make sense that the body that he switched to, he found in the tower.
I don't know. That's
I think
my
he
big
made
question.
himself a body.
Uh-huh.
I think he made himself a body. Yeah, because he's super racist, and it would.
He didn't want to be in a drow any longer than he needed to be. He might have come across another traveler, out
at
there
the tower.
Somebody potentially using the tower as shelter, who
It
didn't
just
go
seems-
down
it
into the
seems-
basement.
It just, I guess my curiosity is what would have made him go to the tower? Because I feel like it's in a very bleak sort of landscape. He would have been heading there with a purpose.
My sense is it would have been more for shelter than anything else, because he's going north. He's going to where that crater is, which is based on, like Letter's intelligence checks and stuff last night. That might be the site of the the last of the Illyrians. That might be the refugee camp, essentially, right? So my sense is that that was almost a way marker north up into the Murakara chain, which is where that first map was that we got in Fangren, the king of Sirangdun's study. So because we know that the king of Sirangdun was hungry for Saracite, and had heard that there was like some refugees that had gone that way. Like they're literally on that map written in Dwarven is refugees of, essentially, and like he learned all of this stuff through these weird Saracite visions he was having. So like I think we're all converging on the same place. The map that, Limerick gave to us, which is what was in Volketh / Rysel's pocket, is a map of the Murakar chain. Like we're all converging on the same place. So I think that's where we have to go now. I think time is of the essence. Also, Finnan has seen visions of this giant crystal cavern. If this is like a Saracite stronghold, if there are like caverns and caverns of Saracite, can you imagine the power of spell amplification? You put the Orphea in front of that, you get a god out of that thing and say, here, amplify this magic, kill all the drow in the world. Do it. Boom. Cast power word death into that. We don't fucking know what Rysel is capable of. Like that's Nepi's worry. Like that's what Nepi's grappling with right now. It's like we have to go and we have to stop him because he might not be able to open the Orphea in the way that we know how, but who knows what he got out of those guards before he killed them or after he killed them. We have no idea what kind of a power he has. Obviously exceedingly strong if he was able to overcome 4 of those guards at once. We know
To be fair, we
teleport.
never fought those guys. We don't know if they were pushovers. They
Jumped
looked
in.
tough. They looked
Right.
tough.
I can imagine if you are the last bastion of one of the most powerful creator goddesses in the world to protect the last of thing that she ever did in the world, I can imagine you're pretty powerful.
Why are they the last? I mean, that's a pretty bad precedent. If they were all really tough, you'd think there'd be more of them.
Or
I mean,
less.
Maybe. Or
like
less.
if she's going to put one person in charge, she's like, oh, this guy's super tough. They don't need anymore. But if she's like,
she didn't have
these guys
faith
are
in the
not
one
that
guy.
great,
I'm
we'll
gonna need
put
3
4
or
of them.
4 of these. Like,
I think the refugees of Relauven have gone to that site
with all their
they were
Saracite.
where they were drawn there by the Saracite. The Saracite drew them home essentially to this like giant Saracite cavern, crystalline cavern of some description.
Was there a cavern in like that in the visions that Relauven was giving Finnan?
He's seen one vision of a cave that goes down and there is just like unbelievable amounts of Saracite that like go down the walls and then open up into this huge expansive cavern with crystals like the size that he's ever seen before. So if that's what the refugees of Relauven have either discovered or are protecting, that's got to be where Rysel is going.
Maybe that's what Rysel's looking for, because maybe he doesn't know where it is.
I think he's using the Saracite to try and track it and try and get himself there, because I think he's just, and I mean, if what he said is true, like he's wanting to kill and, eradicate all of the drow out of the world, where better to do it than
somewhere
there.
that can amplify like that.
We already know what that piece of Saracite could do. It could keep a forbidden spell going for
thousands of years.
Yeah,
it
over
did need
2,000
the little
years.
amplify doohickey.
Yeah, maybe that's because it was only like the size of a football and not an entire cavern worth. So I don't know.
So sled horse was pretty fun.
Sled horse was fun.
Yes. Snow fast? Yes.
Snow fast.
Going snow fast down the mountain.
I must say I preferred the original concept, which was just a horse torso with no legs.
Yeah, in my head,
like a horse torpedo.
That's superior. Just a no-legged horse just fucking sailing down the mountain.
I mean, fucking any horse would have been nice for me. Thank you. But no, I'm just going to tumble down the mountain because
I tried so hard. I tried so hard.
You did. I really, really appreciate it.
And I almost got to fly on you, but fucking Callie used her wings to fly to a bear. Good one, Callie.
You guys are slowly becoming too predictable for Tim, because he knows exactly how to play you guys to use all your magic early. the other thing that I found interesting was, and I'm really glad Chris did sort of retcon it to put Featherfall on more people, but there was a part of me when everyone was like casting like Fly and everything, he's like, I cast Featherfall on myself, and I was like, oh, just on you? I was like, I don't trust him anymore. I don't trust him anymore. And then he's like, oh yeah, I'll cast it on other people too. I was like, okay, cool.
I think Neppy fully trusts Limerick now. Like fully trusts
now.
him.
Yeah. But
No. Like
the
not,
moment where he was like, I'm just gonna cast it on myself, I was like, interesting.
No, she trusted him the second he helped her put those bodies in burial shots. She was like, you care about this. You understand. Yeah.
Neppy's got to talk to her mom, because she is mommy's favorite, and get her some cat wings or something. Because
Cats don't have wings, my dude, but they always land on their feet.
Look, everybody else has some way of like, oh, gravity's a problem. Fucking Kokanee's got his boots. Fucking Callie has her wings when she doesn't use them on bears. Yana can turn into a dumb owl, and Neppy just falls to the ground.
Yeah.
Ask
I can also say,
but you do have great shadows.
Thank you so much.
Shadows are clutch.
I am so like mechanically, I'm so fucking bummed that my amulet triggered. Like, god damn it, because that amulet is so good in combat situations.
You just got to take a week off.
I can't. No, because
and
I think
self-care. Sometimes you have to take time for you.
I don't think Neppy can unattune to that
has
thing.
built up a lot of sick days.
Yeah.
Unattune and reattune it, and that should reset it. It's like a laptop. You just got to power it down and power it back up again.
No, that's a relic of the Raven Queen. I don't think Neppy can unattune to that now.
Oh no.
And like also on principle, she wouldn't. Like she wouldn't.
Like you go to move it, and it's like
gun.
It's like their skin's like slowly growing over.
It's like I don't think it's cursed. I don't think it's cursed. It might be, but I hope not. Whatever. If I think
when you get to a certain level of D&D, like being cursed is like not a big deal anymore.
It's fine. Yeah, I can prep remove curse the next day. It's cool. But like I think on principle, Neppy knows that because of the essentially the tithe as of right now to the Raven Queen, she knows that every time she uses that amulet, it's like, it's like clock's ticking. I'm gonna come calling. So every time my amulet triggers in a non-combat situation, I'm like, motherfucker, like I don't want that to happen, because it always screws us. It screws us because like if it had triggered, the other place that it almost triggered, because I almost went unconscious, was in the fight with Baba and Zamarod in the Earth Elemental Plane, where we were in that stupid treasure room. And it was collapsing. I was down to like 12 hit points. If it had like triggered in there, I would have been dead. And my amulet would have shattered. And that would have been bad. So that amulet shattering terrifies me. So I really don't want it to shatter. It sounds very bad.
Sean, you came through very clutch with a teleport roll.
Okay.
Oh my god.
This is something we have to talk about, because I don't think, with all my fucking Blengles, McFitty, and like all my like shenanigans that I've done, I don't think I've ever actually like gotten on Tim's bad side a little bit, but being like, hey Tim, I'd love to just skip all this content you've prepped and go to that random mountain you described when you were throwing a bone to fucking Callie. Like, I was like, yeah, I want to go there. And he's like, just so you know, it's not going to go as well as you think. And like, it's probably a bad idea. And fucking Kokanee's like, no, it's a good idea. I was like, well, we have to do it now.
Yeah, when did Kokanee become the most chaotic member of our party? Like, jeez.
Maybe you should have waited a little long before you married someone. Like, maybe you should have gotten to know them a little better.
Especially if they're going to be a Terminator and not quite the same person.
You're right. Kokanee's behavior has changed in the recent past.
Yeah, it's funny how that happens. It's funny how, dying a couple times changes you. It's fine.
It's funny because, like, you made a pretty strong argument that it was I forget the term.
Seen casually versus viewed once.
But I love that he didn't tell you it wouldn't count as seeing casually till you'd committed to cast the spell. He didn't say like, no, that's not good. He was like, and then you were like, I'm going to cast a spell. And he's like, it's not seen casually. And there was definitely a moment of everyone being like,
well, shit.
That was great. I love And I mean, you came through clutch. I do love everyone's preparation, fully assuming that it was going to go wrong.
Because it was a 25% chance, Yanis. There is
No, I agree. You guys all went with it. So like, it's a spell that requires you to all hold hands. So at any point, you guys could have been like,
no, it's
you know
not.
what?
He could
No,
just
no,
be like
no.
10 feet of
Mine
us.
isn't all hold
Okay.
hands. It's willing creatures within 10 feet.
But
Willing.
we all had to be willing. Yeah.
Exactly. There was definitely an opportunity for people to be like, this is a dumb idea. And everyone was like, seems pretty legit. Even I also like the fact that when Callie called Kamea, he tried to be the voice of reason through Kamea, where he was like, that is a terrible idea.
Oh, bless Kamea.
Honestly, if fucking Rysel dropped off his body here like a couple weeks ago, that mountain was far. I could barely see it. I think if we are both going to that hole, we might have that advantage on Rysel now.
I will say Neppy is 100% convinced because Letters got it. She was like, that's faith, baby. That's faith. We did it. I prayed and we got there. She's just like honestly, Neppy, that's like one of the things that I've always written into Neppy is that like when faith and prayer comes through, she sees omens and everything. She's like,
Big confirmation bias.
100%.
Yeah.
What is faith if not like an internal confirmation bias system?
Very true.
Like,
Well said. That's just my awesome brain. That's just honestly, this is
so
Baba's
good.
education.
I do love the fact that you took the moment to pray, and Tim's like, "Oh, are you asking for divine intervention?" You're like, "No, this is not a mechanical thing.
No.
This is me trying to guilt you." No, I'm not going to give up any mechanical aspects, but please don't kill us.
Please,
I've made a very
please
pretty
don't.
prayer.
I've asked Mom, and
I've asked Mom, and
Please.
the way you phrased the prayer was fantastic, because you put it on Tim that if it didn't work, Tim was denying the sort of abilities of your own God. So you were like, you're gentle and you're very
Gracious
giving
and
and you're
generous.
gracious and you believe in people. And if Tim had said, if it hadn't worked, you would have been like, what the fuck, Tim? Why did my God not love me? It was definitely like a kid asking for something and then adding in "I love you" afterwards, where it's like, if you don't do this, you're proving that you don't love me back.
Well, and it was the whole thing. It's like, I don't think I intentionally worded that way. When I think about it now, I'm like, yeah. Because like Neppy was like, please let me continue to keep caring for Letters.
Yeah.
Please let me do that. Don't fuck this up for me.
The other beautiful moment for me was when the soldiers left. They like, I assume it was a Tauren-esque figure at the mouth of the cave that was there to greet them, which means they're all in hell now. But I thought it was very beautiful. It was well done, and it was a fantastic sort of like resolution of a problem in a non-combatant way,
God,
which is always like, to me, is like a sign that a D&D group is like firing on all cylinders when they start resolving problems rather than just killing everything.
It made me think of our fucking chatwater with the Wagadu Chronicles.
Yes.
Like,
So
where it's
good.
like, oh, these are literal spirits, and in Wagadu, it's more spirits than monsters. These are literal spirits, and we have to figure out what they need to like pass on peacefully. And I was like, ooh,
so
chatwater
juicy.
and chatwater informing Blackwater usually goes the other way. Oh wow!
When the shows kiss, that's what
when
we
the
loved.
shows kiss, yeah. It was really just like a very sort of satisfying session. Like, it just really hit all of the good notes. You guys, I think the group is very much in like a good sort of like performing little bubble right now, where everything is just story wise and character wise is just sort of a great gelling. I
love Limerick. I love him so
Isn't he
much.
great?
Yeah.
And I love Chris struggling to remember which voice he chose.
So that's the truest true.
We've literally all been there. We've literally all been there.
It's such a real problem where you're like, I really found this last time. And you're like, oh, and I am, where is it?
Yeah,
I also love watching the DM in Chris. Like, I know Chris is in player mode right now because he stepped in with us, which I think is so nice. Like, he does play a lot over at Fabled 42. He's in like 2 or 3 shows that they do, which I would recommend all of you going to see, because if you like what he does with us, like, please go check out the crews at Fabled 42. We love them immensely. but it's so funny to watch him watch us as a DM. Like, he's just like, oh my God, what are you doing? Like, and he's just like, yeah, this is great. These are my new friends. I'm absolutely going with them.
That is the one
Great.
thing that I will say about, like, in a very positive, in the few times I've played with Tim, he's done it as well, but with Adam and Sean, they have an ability. They DM quite a lot outside of this, but they have an ability to switch that DM side off, because I think it's oftentimes hard for people who DM a lot to throw caution to the wind completely when it comes to playing their characters, because their brain is so wired in terms of like trying to tell a narrative and like the mechanics of things, that like Chris does it, but you can see in his brain he's like looking at it from both sides.
He's getting
Whereas
analytical with it, of
he's
course.
exactly whereas Adam and Sean are just pure chaos always.
I mean,
Which
I know
might,
you haven't played a lot of D&D with Tim Carlson,
yeah,
but like Tim Carlson as a
but
player is
he's,
utter chaos.
yeah, but that's
It's
because
the best.
Tim I feel like Tim rebels like extra hard, right? Like he's the teenager who comes from like the super religious family who, when he rebels, he goes all out. Like Tim is doing it to prove a point.
It's his Rumspringa.
Yeah,
That's what it is.
yeah.
Yeah,
He's like,
playing as
oh,
Tim's
Sean and
Rumspringa. Yeah.
Adam, you guys think you're crazy. Hold my beer, watch this.
Here's my thing. Everyone talks about fucking
How
letters
chaotic
being
Sean is.
chaotic.
No.
And
I gotta stop you. We don't talk about how letters is chaotic. We talk about how Sean Defner is chaotic.
all right, fair enough. I got a lot of defenses for letters, but none for myself.
The bleed makes letters a little chaotic, but it's mainly you. And in the best way, you're chaotic good for sure, but you are chaotic and we love you. If anyone follows any of the other cast members of Deadly Class, they've been posting stories from set, and a lot of them are just like Sean being pure Sean. And you know which one I'm talking about. It's the one I think that Siobhan posted,
Which one's that?
of you
Oh,
on
is
the
that it?
stairs.
In the trench coat? No.
In the,
What is it? It's a house coat. Yeah.
it's a house coat, yeah. And having worked a couple times on set when you were there, like it is just pure chaotic energy from Sean, and it's wonderful.
You got to keep the dream alive.
I love
I
it.
think
I love it though. I think it's one of the things that like little spark of chaos bleeding through is one of the like most genuine things for me about letters. Is like, I think it, for me, the way I read it, and I don't know if that's the way you intend it, Sean, but the way it comes across for me is like letters is just like wanderlust for life, and like his like pure enjoyment of, this is a brand new world that he's never experienced before and never thought he would. So like, of course he is a kid in a candy store about like the real world, and it often ends up playing like a bull in the china shop, but like it's wonderful to watch, because it's like you could play letters like stuffy and hardline and precision, as like a kind of typical, I'm very smart and I'm going to punch this thing with my brain, but like he has this like almost very like youthful childlike wanderlust to him, and I like, it's one of my favorite things about letters. It's just so lovely.
Thank you very
to
much.
to me
I
it's
like
like
it too. You
to me
go
it's
ahead.
just like this
Say more nice
wonderful,
things about
like
me.
I always imagine it as a sort of a like because the way letters grew up, he never got to be a kid, and so he's not technically a kid anymore. He is in terms of like human age, but like not in terms of like minotaur age. But whenever there's like he usually is that sort of like stuffy hard line, but there's that like impulse of like the inner child where like and you see it on Sean's face, because I feel like Sean's very much the same way. Like Sean is a very logical, pragmatic person, but then
There's the word, pragmatic. Yeah.
he has that like fire in him that just he can't help but explore like the weird chaos. And you see that in letters, where letters is like, this is the job we're doing, like I'm businessman, and then something will come along and you'll see him be like, wait a second, there's an opportunity for hijinks. And like he's in a place now where he can do that, where he wasn't necessarily before, in the earth elemental plane. And you see it with Nepi too. Like Nepi has found more and more, and Kokanee have found more and more times to be silly now that they have like the love of this like family and group and the support of this family and group, where they're like, we are homeschool kids, and we just do still say sir and ma'am and all that stuff, but also like now we can have some fun, and now we can
Yeah.
like cut loose a little bit.
Because I think when Matt and I had talked a bit about kind of like how Kokanee and Neppy existed, like when how they exist when they're not in front of other people, um, there is a lot of silliness and teasing, and like they that sense of like being able to be just like like just breathe for a couple minutes and not have to be High Priestess Nepentha, Lightkeeper of all of these temples with 20,000 epithets, or High Priest Kokanee, Lightkeeper of Arathis, the Will of Arathis, and all of his titles after that. It's just like they're just Kokanee and Neppy, and they're truly like, I think, both very kind, compassionate, silly people. Like
Who
they both love to dance.
who is the uncle
Like
in Avatar?
Uncle Iroh.
Uncle Iroh. It's like big Uncle Iroh energy, right? Where he's like this old wise person, but he's also got this like spark. Like he's always like messing with people, and he's always got a quick joke, and it
I think they've both loosened up a bit,
yes, for
like there
sure.
was like, I think they both very much can still turn on that sense of propriety. Like, I am stepping into the job. This is the job that I wear. This is my life's purpose. Like, this is the role that we're doing. Um, but it's now much easier, I think, for Neppy to step out of that and be like, to these people, I'm just Neppy, right? Like, I'm just Neppy. Like the second Limerick started calling her Neppy, it was like, that was so comfortable. Where like in very much in the past, had anyone else called her Neppy, she would have been like, my name is Nepentha, and you will refer to me by my title. Like, she's corrected many people before and be like, my title is High Priestess Nepentha, you will refer to me as such. Especially when they haven't been with the party. But she's like, I'm just Neppy. This is like, there is times where I have to turn that on and be, that role, but I don't need to be that around these people. These people are my family.
It's
You
going to
know
be
me.
so
My
interesting
name's
when you have to go
Neppy. I'm
back.
just like you. I put all my 10,000 bells on one at a time.
Just like everyone else.
Just like everybody else.
Yeah, I cut my hand 4 times a day to pray, just like everybody else.
Just like you. I'm just like
I'm
you.
just like you. Yeah, I'm mommy's favorite, just like you. Like
No, no one's mommy's favorite. I am different. What? Speaking of different, I am so curious about fucking Yana's new tentacles.
Oh my
or
gosh.
whatever the fuck, because she did that thing in the graveyard, and she's been trying to do this thing that I think she finally did last time.
Yeah.
Where she's like, "You're gonna do what I tell you," and he's like, "Okay." And I'm like, look, Kokanee's got to talk to these ghosts. He's got to like talk these ghosts down, but like, we're gonna talk about you have brain control tentacles now.
I think it's been really cool because I know like outside of games, Jen's been like so excited because I think she and Tim have been working on something kind of like a way to, and I would love to get her on the show at some point to talk about her new magic, but I think they're adapting the necromancer's like subclass. Like they're adapting the way that her necromantic magic works. So no longer is it about, from my sense and like what I've seen and the way that Tim's described it in game, because I don't know anything about it outside of game, which is very unlike me, and I also don't want to know because I want that to be Yana, something that's actionable and Yana sharing at the table. But from my sense of it, it's like rather than using like the death force and death drive and like the energy around death, it's drawing the energy from the interconnectedness of all things and the life cycle itself, which I think fits really well with Yana's like, I'm a sweet forest gnome and who just likes to fix things and loves greenery. And I'm like, that is so Yana and it's so wonderful. So I can't wait to see more of it. I can't wait to see more of what she can do with that. And it's also really nice that her magic is not like sickly yellow and full of chains anymore. Like I'm really stoked about that for her.
It's gonna make her transition to a lich much more jarring though. But I mean, yeah, we'll get there.
Friendly liches, your friendly neighborhood garden
Your friendly neighborhood garden lich. I mean, if anyone can do it, it's Yana.
I 100% agree.
She's swayed Neppy on necromancy, sort of.
I mean,
She made you tolerate it, which
thank
is
you. Yes, that's
a
better.
big victory. So if
All the
anyone
good
can
magic
pull
is
off,
necromancy. All
it's
the
true.
good
You know,
magic,
I remember when I played
in my opinion.
Kale.
I don't know about that one.
When
Letters
I
doesn't
played,
have any necromancy.
I remember when I was playing Kale more. I had a hard time picking. Like there were a lot of spells, higher level spells that are super useful, but they're necromantic in nature, and I had a hard time justifying why he as a character would dabble in those sort of things, because
Just
it
gonna
just,
casually dabble in some 7th
yeah,
level necromancy.
it
It's
just
fine.
feels like weird, you know what I mean? And so I'm glad that Tim's finding a way to sort of make that magic not inherently feel evil, which I
Yeah,
feel like it always kind of has.
yeah.
Um,
And that's something I think I've really respected or about the way that Tim has handled, Neppy's use of it, because the grave cleric is a guardian of that kind of, the transition between life and death. That's usually who their gods are. But it is the use of necromancy to uphold the cycle of life and death, which is, like when I was first reading the subclass, I was like, ooh, yes, this sounds great. Um, Rather than like a death cleric who is all about like, let's burn it to the ground with necromancy. So I love necromancy spells. I think they're fantastic. The visuals for me are like of awesome, like a blight spell, or like, harm. The way that harm is written, it's just it's a chef kiss of a spell, because it's just like, it will drain the life essence from you but leave you with 1 hit point. It will not kill you. It will drain, like it can do a fuck ton of damage, but it will leave you with 1 hit point left. And I'm just like, that's magic. That's like just narratively magical. I love necromancy for its narrative properties, partially, and also just the magic is really cool. It's fun to cast necromancy.
and I mean, Tim did the same thing with, I mean, the warlock class, because oftentimes, I would say most times, people play warlock patrons as some level of evil, or
Mm-hmm.
some level of, not necessarily always wanting them to do the good stuff. And so it's oftentimes I find
A
warlocks play these.
strong nooch, like a
Yeah,
strong neutral at best.
yeah. So oftentimes you find warlocks who play like a very sort of like, I'm good, but my patron's not super stoked about it. And this is very much different, where Lauvin's, well, we think he's good. I mean, we don't know yet. Like, we don't know the whole story, but he's a bit more sort of palatable, as patrons go. At
Mm-hmm.
least in my experience. I don't know. Maybe everyone out there is playing really good patrons. We're just weird people, but
I have in the other campaign I have set in the world of Terrorist, or that Tim is running, I play a warlock with an archfey patron. And he is, like, I would argue, probably neutral good. Like, he's given her power and just hasn't really given her any like big old quests to go figure out what it is. He's just like, he got murdered and he's still able to gift her power, and in his like dying moments gave her this power, and he's just like, please help me. Like, I've known you your whole life. Like, please help me. So I think I think it's a lot about, the player that comes in, the DM you have at the table, and kind of what, like, if you're going Pact of the Fiend, or like Pact of the Fiend with your warlock, it's just like, let's have some considerations about your fiend, like your patron, and what's going on. Or the Great Old One, it's like, what are they trying to do? I think I'm really excited. It's one of the reasons I'm really excited for Tasha's, because they have a lot of cool new patrons in there, like the Genie, which is going to be one of the new patrons in the
I
Tasha's
haven't
book.
seen it yet. The book hasn't come yet. Don't
It
tell me
comes out
anything.
in 2 days. They
Good.
released all
No.
this stuff on Honor.
Well, look, I know. I've been saving it because I want to see it in the
Okay.
book. I
And
want
we're
to
gonna
And we're going to talk
like
about it
we're
next
gonna
week on
we're gonna
chatWater.
do, yeah. So
well, fuck, then I
we'll do
better study up in those 5 days that I have.
a lot of reading to do.
But speaking of upcoming episodes, should we like roll that intro and start talking
Let's
about the
roll
sequel
that
arc?
intro.
No, let's see if we can go a whole episode without talking about the past at all.
Oh,
What if we had an
we could
episode
do that.
that's all preamble, and then we roll the intro? We say thanks to all our sponsors and good night, everybody.
And it's an outro at that point.
It's an outro.
Okay,
What?
but for real,
I'm joking.
let's roll that intro. Roll that intro.
Bye. And we're back, yeah.
Hey!
Hey, we're back. We did it. The joys of the internet. So we'll do some quick announcements first before we jump into talking about the 6 months arc. So this will be part 3 of the 6-month arc. So we'll talk about that in a second. But as always, a big thanks to our sponsors, Legendcraft, Silverwing Armory, both whom are wonderful Canadian companies that we are partnered with. Both companies have like promos and lots of deals going on right now. So if you like what you see at any of their stores, enter the code Blackwater at checkout for 5% off at Legendcraft and 10% off at Silverwing Armory. And as always, a big thank you to our amazing art patron, Tiana, who we love to the end of the earth and back. She's responsible for like almost all of the art you see on our channel, and we love her to the end, to like moon and back. And Keisha, our dice goddess, who has created some of just the loveliest dice. And it's even lovelier because they're like for our characters. I am obviously sitting in Tim's seat today, so I get to touch his dice. And like
Ooh, don't touch other people's dice. That's bad luck. That's bad luck.
No,
Put
it's
that
fine.
down.
No, I've held all of them before. It's fine. So the Saracite dice that he created is so nice, or she created is so nice, and the Blackwater set that you all have seen, and his set, like, if you want custom dice, she's your gal to go to. She's also wonderful to work with and is an amazing creator. She will take your character and like convert them into dice form, and just get it entirely. So please go follow her and Tiana and both of our other sponsors, Legendcraft and Silverwing Armory. Twitch gaming and subscriptions. If you are one of those people who subscribes to us, thank you so much. It helps us do what we do here on the channel and continue to create amazing content for you, and for us as well, because we enjoy this. But your Twitch gaming subscriptions don't roll over every month. So continue to do that if that's something you want to do. Thank you. And with your tier 1 subscription, you get access to our amazing emotes. We are working on further emotes for tier 2 and tier 3. So please stay tuned for those. But yeah, thank you to everyone who subscribes to us. YouTube. We have all of our VODs over on YouTube. So a lot of people are like, where can I watch more of you? And it's there. Everything is there like a day, if not like right away after we record it here on Twitch. So I get those up pretty quickly for you. Everything is in order. Everything is properly archived over there. So it's all in playlists. It's very easy for you to just, click your way through the multiple million hours of content over there. We have over like almost 100 videos worth of content up there. So happy to be the stuff that you have on in the background at work. We've also
leave us on when you go for work. Wait, no one leaves their pets alone anymore because everyone stays at home.
We all work from home now. Yeah.
Make our pets watch our shit anyways. All people's pets watching our D&D.
I want that too. I mean, I guess both of my pets sit and watch us play D&D.
We have at least 3 pets who are deeply involved in our stream.
Deeply involved.
They
yes.
also make cameos.
Yes, they do. So we've also released our newest YouTube exclusive episode, which is from the audio archives, which is me doing a lot of this, talking about lore, but they were recorded literally 1 or 2 days after the sessions took place in our home game. So the entire Barmwich Arc is up in one 4-hour-long episode that has been mildly edited just for privacy reasons, and also has all of the content up there in really good detail. It's almost like being in the session itself and hearing it live. So
if chatWater doesn't have enough detail for you, I know that most our fans of the regular show don't watch chatWater, and so like the hardcores watch chatWater, and the chatWater hardcores listen to the 4-hour first impression recording of Emma.
That's Lore Keepers Club. That's the lore club. That's what, and if anyone is part of the lore club,
it's for the elites.
For elite. Oh yeah.
No fucking casuals allowed at the 4-hour audio only recap.
No plebs in Lore Club, okay? So all of the videos are up there for to watch at your leisure. They're also the history and lore section is up here permanently on Twitch. So if you're not a YouTube person, all of that history is up here on Twitch for you to watch as well. On Wednesday, the Gals of Blackwater are joined for another episode of character development by Brenna Folger and Abby Dandy from Weed D&D and Art Hard Studios. We love these ladies immensely, and we had Bam on the show for our behind the screen episode last week, and he was so wonderful to chat to. What an awesome dude. And we're really, really excited to chat with Brenna and Abby just about life, the universe, and everything, D&D or not. If there is anything you have a question about that you would think that the 5 of us could have a moderately okay answer to, all you have to do is type !survey in the chat, and the link for the survey will come up. It's all anonymous, and we'll read your questions out. You can ask pretty much anything you want within, reason. I don't know what reason is, but ask what you want, and we'll go from there.
if you have specific questions about playing while smoking weed, this would be the week to ask it.
Yes.
I think it's fair to say that we have some experts joining us on that particular front.
Yes. Also, Brenna and Abby are both actresses, so they are amazingly talented folks, and I can imagine would be able to answer questions about, their show. They're both from Vegas. They live in Vegas full time, so which is really, really awesome too. And then finally, what we dropped on Saturday, which Lennon and I have been working on for so long, merch. If you're like me, and you just want to support and rep the thing that you love most, which is obviously Blackwater D&D, you can head on over to our merch store. If you just type !merch in the chat, it will pop up the link and it'll take you right to our Teespring store. So please go head on over there, see all that good stuff. If you are interested in like chatWater merch, we have hoodies and t-shirts and a mug of the narrative and mechanics.
I'm getting that mug. I'm getting that mug.
I know. I need a t-shirt of that. And then we also have logo art. We have totes with the Firebrand Cafe on them. We have the Lightkeepers tote. We have a Callie and Kamea tote. We have a Callie and Kamea hoodie. We have the group art, all of our art there done by Tiana. So please head on over to the store. We had our first merch purchase already on Saturday, so people are going to be out there repping their love for Blackwater, which just makes me happy, just makes my heart shine a little bit. So yeah, and that's all I've got for you, announcements wise. Anyway.
What was the date again if you want to buy it and have it here before Christmas?
The 20th, right?
The 20th, okay. Yes. Yeah, and we'll and if you are also if you're someone who follows us on Instagram, we'll be doing regular updates there about what merch is like. Sometimes Teespring runs out of sizes, but they do update them pretty often. But shipping takes about a month to get from wherever you are because they've got to print it and package it and send it out to you. Yeah. It's an amazing site for, creators who can't necessarily manage their own merch store because we're not big enough yet. So please head on over there if you like what we do and want to rep our show. Yeah, that's all I got. That's all I got.
I like what we do, Em, but what I like more is what we've done.
Ooh.
Could you tell us something about that?
Oh. Your segues are getting better and better. So we're going to keep talking about the 6 months arc today. This will probably be our last session talking about it. This is part 3 of the 6 months arc. So if you've missed part 1 and part 2, never fear. It is up on our history and lore section here on Twitch, as I mentioned, and also on YouTube. This is the arc that bridged between the Barmwich Arc and the Vel Soom Arc, which started when we left for Manta in the Forgotten Expanse, which kind of started us on the path towards trying the race for the seals, essentially, where we were against Vel Soom. So I will be making an audio recap of this arc, and that will probably be released sometime within the next week or 2, and that will also be up over on our YouTube. It is also such a joy for me to re-listen to those recaps because I get to relive my own emotions about how much I love this game over and over again, which is like candy for me. So we're going to chat. We ended last week at session 65, which is when Kokanee well, I'll talk about what happened in a sec. So we'll see how far we get.
Oh, this is we're in Caradoc. No, not Caradoc.
We are in Caradoc.
We are in Caradoc. There was all the shooting. There was the armory. Yes. Fucking Kokanee just got termied.
He did. So
Yeah.
last time
Confirmation. She confirmed it. She
I
confirmed
did.
it.
Confirmed.
Sorry,
You
Confirmed
heard
here.
yes.
Confirmed here. The more you
She's
talk about it,
slowly
the more.
coming to our side.
No. It was the moment last. I think it was a couple weeks ago. I thought about it and I was like, you know what? If anybody would marry a robot, I feel like it would be Neppy. Like I feel like if anyone would marry a
And
robot, it would be my sweet girl.
if anyone would casually put a Terminator in a campaign, it would be Tim.
It would be Tim. So it's really just a beautiful, perfect
It's a
storm of that.
very solid theory at this point.
Honestly,
Terminators aren't necessarily a bad thing. We
No,
all saw
he turned
Terminator
out to be
2,
good.
3, 4. Like, you can have good Terminators.
So last time we talked about Kokanei's heart getting pulled out of his chest by Vel Soom, causing the breaking of the Gatestone Monument seal in Wolfrene. We talked about us going to Caradoc and having Arathis revive him by putting the seal of Arathis, which is a key encased in a piece of aerolite in his chest. And then we as we'd had to go to the ice plane to go get Cogman, and we'd had to fight our way through the city. There was a demon lord that we fought who got away, this kind of like wretched owl creature who was just awful. We returned Cogman to the temple. Cogman went into the ice plane to visit Arathis, and then out we kind of saw what would happen on the other side, that Arathis was like, welcome back. She'd said, you're the last line of defense now. You carry the seal in your chest. And then as Kokanei walked back through into Caradoc carrying his gun, Cogman's gun, and with this beautiful intricate brass plate of like moving machinery covering the heart in his chest, this pulse radiates through the city and vaporizes all of the demons remaining except for the demon lord, because that motherfucker got away. And essentially we ended the last summary that we were doing here on chatWater with Arathis really ascending and retaking her city, which was really, really cool. That was a really cool moment too, as like being able from the beginning to see like, oh man, we helped this god do this. Like, that's pretty rad. It's pretty cool. So we continue with episode 65 with Kokanei, because none of us had seen Kokanei at this point. He just walked back in, and he comes back into the temple as like the rest of us kind of rush up. We kind of all get there at the same time, and as he opens the front doors, this blue light emanates out through the temple and just radiates through the city. The party is reunited. Kokanei and Neppy reunite. It's like this wonderful moment of her getting him back, and a couple of the people in the party that we were traveling with at the time who had more information on the seals than we did fill us in on kind of what's going on. So we know that there is a seal left in Clore. We know there's a seal left in Cinderfall. We know that the seal that was in Caradoc is now in Kokanei's chest, and we know that there is a seal in the Forgotten Expanse, which is the city of Manta. Sorin Brightwing, the Dragonborn that we had helped so long ago, who was now like here in Caradoc essentially as a refugee, and some of the high elves that had fled Faway Tavar to escape persecution, because in Faway Tavar, wood elves are the like ruling class and high elves are the lower kind of more persecuted class. They fled Faway Tavar and kind of took up refuge in Caradoc to help rebuild the city. Also, something that very cool that happens with this blue light emanating out is we see all of the Warforged in the city come back online. They just like, from their heads being down, they just look up with like the blue light in their eyes of being awake. And they're all speaking High Tongue, because these are Warforged from the time of the Dawnwar, and that's what was spoken. It's like a proto-celestial language. We had some people asking about High Tongue the other night, and especially from the session the night before. So Kokanei, so the only person originally in the party that could speak High Tongue was Torin. And then Torin taught Callie, or she learned through his book. She was gifted a language. And then Callie taught Kokanei, and Kokanei taught Neppy. So the three of them can now speak High Tongue.
Going viral.
It's going viral. It's probably good to speak an old language, though.
Click here to learn High Tongue, and then link two of your friends.
Is it a multi-level marketing scheme? I don't know. It's like
I think it is. It all goes back to Torin, and that's why he's in hell.
Yeah. So one of the Warforged comes up to us with a spear in hand, and Neppy didn't know High Tongue at this point. So she spoke to Callie and Kokanee in High Tongue. Her name is Searcher97. She asks, like, who are you? Why are you here? And asks who the High Priest is at this point. And we're all just like, here he is. This is him. And she's like, okay, great. Turns out she knew Torin, and she knows that there is enough Warforged to protect the city. She will be rounding them all up, and she's essentially like a captain of some description. So she's kind of in charge here. We ask her what she knows about Wolfreen, and she knows that Wolfreen at this point is like an old military outpost. So the city of Wolfreen is not big at this point. And we're like, oh, it's actually the biggest, it's kind of the capital city of the continent now. So we talk a little bit about the Forgotten Expanse, and you're like, what do you know of this place? And she's like, okay, well, it's at the end of the peninsula. And we're like, what do you mean peninsula? There's no land there. It stops. So we learn a little bit that, like, something happened at the end of the Dawn War, she thinks anyway, that flooded that region and essentially cut the Forgotten Expanse off from the mainland. So the city of Manta, she knows, is at the end of the peninsula, the end of like where this landmass used to be. And she knows that Manta is the city of the Raven Queen. And she hadn't known that the Raven Queen had fallen, and so we fill her in on that. And that that Manta used to be the home of Falbask, the Tree of Life. So there are
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So as we talked about in the Dawn War episode and the Gods of Terrace episode, there are kind of two trees that uphold the planes of existence. There is Thalbask, which is the Tree of Life, which used to be planted in Manta and is no longer planted there. It is planted not on the continent of Wolfreen. It's actually on Ishion at this point in a keep. Kept very safe and is regrowing because it was burnt down anyway. And then there is also Gloom Theran. So Gloom Theran is the Tree of Death, and that is in the Shadowfell. And that is being looked after by a group of Shadarkai elves who are all monks who still follow the Raven Queen. So she... Searcher 97 had known of rumors of a catastrophe that had happened in the city of Amonkhet, which is the old city on the Amonkhet Peninsula, where we had been like, oh, okay, that's outside of where we know Bakal is at this point. And on the way to Manta, there was a Caraxian outpost called Sister's Watch. It was on this high kind of like outcropping, like ridge. So if it's been, we know that it's likely been flooded. So if it's there, it's like still a point, and like on our map, Sister's Watch still exists. So we know that it's there, and it's likely a Caraxian outpost. So we talked to the people that we're traveling with at this point about what's going on down in Clore. So Clore, the seal down there is a titan, like a lesser titan.
Oh, yeah.
Named Uptau, who is the kind of titan of jungles, and it slumbers in the forests of Clore or in the jungles of Clore. So it's down there somewhere, and we kind of try and discuss, like, how are we going to go after these seals? Like, what the fuck are we going to do? We're losing. Vel Soom has more of them than we do. Like, we had one in our possession at this point. We knew that two were safe. We knew that the one in Clore was safe, and we knew that the one in Kokanee's chest was safe, and that was it, and everything else was up in the air. So we kind of go around. Lex decides that she's going to stay in Caradoc to kind of like learn more about Arathis and kind of help out where she can. And we learn a little bit about what's going on in Clore. There's some shit going on down there with vampires. We also have ties to the Caraxian royal family. One of the uncles, Cain, whose sister Lillian Tarark was the high priestess. Cain is now a big ass vampire down in Clore, and he's been there for a very long time.
Are we gonna have to deal with that? Is that a Blackwater problem? because
It
like
it
I
might
feel like
not
I
be.
was here for this, and I didn't remember. Vampires is not on Letters' radar.
Yeah,
Like,
this was kind of going on as kind of like a side quest thing with some of the people who are
uh,
traveling with us at this point.
okay, all right.
So I don't know if it's a
Not
Blackwater problem.
Blackwater's problem.
No,
Vampires live and let unlive. Like,
well, live and let unlive, truly. Like, so vampires essentially control, and this might be like meta knowledge that, we don't really have, but vampires control one of the guilds in Clore. The Pleasure Wilds are just
I don't
mostly
even know where
vampires.
Clore is. Not my
It's
problem.
like the like Tortuga of like everything is contraband. It's like
Pirate Hub?
Louisiana. Yeah, for sure. There's
Pirate Hub
pirating.
is
Louisiana.
my problem.
It's
Fuck.
like uh oh my god. New Orleans. It's like New Orleans. Like everything is just like there's like brothels everywhere and there's like it's just like partying and debauchery.
And
It's great.
stop. You're making Letters care about this.
It's great. It's where all the contraband from Wilfrene gets ferreted through. So
Now we've got to go to fucking Clore
Now we
to
gotta go to
establish
Clore.
trade with these goddamn pirate
So
vampires because that sounds too rad not to do.
letters
Fuck,
and
Emma.
I'm sorry. So Letters and Spooky go to the
There's always
library.
something.
Letters and Spooky go to the library in Caradoc to see if they can learn a bit more. They find some like old frozen books that they try and get some information from. They use prestidigitation and like shield to help keep the books together. It was quite an ingenious use of it. And they find some histories on the Tome of Magic, like on Tomes of Magic and books, and on Warforged. Looking through the magic books, Spooky finds some stuff about clockwork magic, like manipulation of mechanical things, and learns the spell Gear Barrage. So she has access to that spell. So Neppy and Kokanee take a little walk and go off to the temple. Kind of talk about Kokanee being his own man and like finally free from like the shackles of Vel Soom and his father. They kind of search the temple for anything else that might be important. They find some notebook. We essentially go to Cogman's study, where he had been, and take some like pistol cleaning tools. There's a desk that Kokanee tries to pick and it shoots him with a blunderbuss, but he's fine. And we take some
Classic Kokanee.
Yeah, so small abstracts of like small abstract art and effigies of Arathis. Then there's like a whole bunch of time where we're just like shooting guns, and Kokanee gives us a bunch of guns and tries to teach us how to shoot guns, and a lot of people can't work them because they're not clerics. So, and like the only one who has any real proficiency or could shoot it is Callie, but then Melora's like, no, you don't do that at all. Callie calls Kamea, tells her Kokanee was alive. Kamea's been pardon.
Shocker.
Yeah, she calls her
that
wife.
sounds so unlike her.
So unlike her. Callie tells
I'm glad
her that
she stopped doing that.
right.
Yeah.
I honestly am so I love Callie's
No,
calls
I
to
love
Kamea.
him.
It's an absolute highlight of every episode.
Tim, can I call my wife? It's great.
First round of combat, I call my wife.
I know he said he's going to cast that spell, but I'm going to call my wife real fast.
quick, while he's doing this other thing, can I call my wife? So Kamea, in the time that we've been in Caradoc, has been coronated as queen.
Hell yeah.
And then after the, attack on Wolfrene, they figured out that it was like folks like, Callie feels Kamea that it was likely Vel Soom. The coronation was very quiet. It was done in the Gatestone Keep with like a couple people from the council there, and that was it. The ground outside of the Gatestone Keep, where the rift was, has been hallowed. The rift has been closed. The city, the demons dispatched. Some had fled the city. Kamea was just trying to keep it resilient and strong. Callie tells her that she met a god, and Kamea's like, what? You met God? And Callie's like, yeah, I met Arathis. Kamea's like, holy shit. Just all in a day's work for us. There's a bunch of shooting practice that happens. And Finnan checks in with Ralauvin, talks about that, Ralauvin tells him to continue learning and expand his knowledge, that he's been wandering alone for a long time, and he's happy to have Finnan as a kind of companion in this and happy to keep giving him power. He says that he has some unfinished business and was betrayed a very long time ago, but this can wait a bit longer. By Rysel. Spoilers for the current arc of the campaign. And Finnan talks to him about Saracite, asking about like its chaotic energy used by the Illyrians, and Saracite can fix his staff, and not sure where it was mined in Illyria. So like this is like the beginning, the seeds of what is happening at this arc, stemming from what's happening in the Barmwich Arc to here. And that's what I fucking love about the way Tim, like we work with Tim to tell stories, is that there's just seeds everywhere. Like the arcs that are upcoming are not, they're never totally big surprises. It's always like there are little seeds dropped, and it's really nice to play in that. So we decide to go home, back to Wolfreen shortly, to kind of gather our stuff and kind of decide where we're going next. And that is the end of episode 65, or sorry, session 65.
And now, briefly after this, we head on over to Manta. We get that pirate ship, not a pirate ship.
Ice Meat. We go to Ice Meat first, and then that's kind of
what happens at Ice Meat. What is that?
Well, we're getting there, Sean.
I don't know. Look, here's the thing. What I'm trying to say is, very soon after this, we actually start streaming. And if you want to know what happened, you just watch earlier episodes.
Yes.
Because we go to Ice Meat, where I guess we meet Ice. I don't know. I never played the game.
It's a big freezer.
Mm-hmm.
But then we take that boat ride with that person who will not work for the Dresden Trading Company, not because she won't allow it, but because we did not have a good professional
Cordelia Shade. Oh, Cordelia Shade. We will.
But
talk
then we
about
go
her shortly.
to the big lore dump, God's burial site, God Tomb.
The Tomb of the Raven Queen, yeah.
Tomb of the Raven Queen.
Yeah, so we're...
And our first streaming episode was the second to last session of the Tomb.
Yeah, so we're on session 66 right now. So this is the last episode or session in the 6 months arc. And then at session 67, it picks up with the Vel Soom Arc, which is when we started streaming at essentially session 72. So there's really not a lot of time between where we are, going through this right now and where we started streaming, which is actually really nice because it kind of gets everyone caught up with the big chunk of time before. And there's of course a bunch of stuff that happened, like the Feywild arc, the Elemental Chaos arc, the Earth Elemental Plane arc, and the early days, the Rune Children arc, back in very early on, and we'll get there. But
question, just because I feel like we're doing faster than we usually do. What was the first thing that Blackwater ever fought? What was the first combat that Blackwater had to deal with?
Cultists. As a party went cultists.
Yeah?
Yeah, cultists of werewolves, and then we fought a bunch of werewolves.
Sick. Were the cultists werewolves, or did they worship werewolves?
They were going to be werewolves. They were getting ready to become werewolves.
Like familiars.
Kind of.
They call themselves the Pup Squad.
The Pup Squad. Yeah, we fought a bunch of cultists in a basement below a bakery.
That sounds like first
super on
problems.
brand. Super on brand. And then we fought 2 werewolves and an alpha werewolf. And we also fought a druid. We also fought a decently powerful druid as well.
Okay, cool.
So,
humble beginnings.
Humble beginnings in the small town of Torren. But yeah, we'll get there. So session 66, we bounce up to the air plane, and for a couple people this is their first time with us. A couple of people traveling with us, this is their first time to the air elemental plane. So we meet this giant who is selling a bunch of baked goods, and there's some meringues bought, some sugar crashing happening. Spooky and Letters go to a library, and they start learning about golem construction.
Yeah,
so they're reading about keg golems. One of them, Letters, finds some information on a wizard that was experimenting with paper golems, and animating paper and stuff like that. So pretty fascinating. Spooky finds a book on the Dawned War, the Chained One, stuff about her pants, stuff about the Abyss. Neppy casts a bunch of legend lore on a lot of stuff. We have this staff that had been with us for a long time that Zakis, the Rekakra, who's from the Elemental Chaos arc who we killed, was carrying, called the Staff of Akadi, which is a la Akadi, the air elemental god. So Neppy has this kind of vision of, it's called the Staff of the Herald. And so it was actually carved from the bough of Thalbask, so like the big tree of life, by Sorrel the Windborn, who was a Goliath princess named Sorrel. So the staff was gifted the power by the breath of the storm serpent, and Neppy and Kokanee just kind of take a day to rest, and we're just like, bye, we'll see you guys when we're ready to go hereafter asleep. See you later. So everyone else kind of spends time just kind of going around and doing their thing. Letters is, why is Clack not with us at this point? I think
No,
Clack
he is. He
was
just
he?
didn't make the headline.
Right. Okay.
Unless it specifically says Clack is not there.
No, letters class cast sending to Clack. So Clack must have been at the
bar and grill.
Maybe he didn't go to Caradoc with it. No, I know that's why. He didn't go to Caradoc with us because he got wrecked in the Gatestone Keep fight and had to stay home, and we didn't have enough space for him at that point because we were taking Lex and a couple other people.
Yeah.
So he stayed home to recuperate. So Neppy cast sending
Crack
to Hade.
The whip with Gorge and Krager.
Absolutely. And then they decide at that point that they're going to the Forgotten Expanse. So the party decides that we're, if we go down towards Clore and Cinderfall, where we know those other two seals are, that's really close to the Amonkhet. Bakal, they already have like days lead on us. If they have teleportation magic, they are like already likely there going after those. So maybe those are lost causes already. And we know that there's like a bunch of people in Clore trying to keep the seal down there safe. People from the Order of the Key are trying to keep that one safe. So like, there's no point in us going there. We have to kind of try and get the one in Manta. So Chi sees us off. Kokanee buys a new shirt because his other one got ripped up. Yep.
And he didn't want to mend it?
I think he lost it. When after Vel Soom took his heart, it was like underwater. Neppy didn't go.
Wait a second.
I have written down here, Kokanee buys a new shirt exactly the same as the one he had before.
Sounds like something Kokanee would do. That sounds like some new shit.
And then Callie and Neva and Spooky and Neppy and Jar go for a ladies' brunch. They go out for brunch together and have a brunch date. Yeah, it's really great.
Tell us more about that.
It just literally says we go for brunch.
I think we
just said.
Tell us about it. You know exactly what happened.
What do you have?
Tell us about it.
Oh, I feel like Neppy, I mean, obviously.
There's no guessing. You're just telling us exactly.
She had like an Eggs Benny sort of dish.
Yes, she did.
Were there
mimosas? Sauce.
100% there were mimosas of some description. Yeah, for sure. It was a day drinking kind of brunch. Absolutely.
And this is Nessa, not Neva?
No, Neva, not Nessa.
Neva.
Yeah. Kamea's bodyguard, essentially.
I never would have thought Neva as a brunch person. Did she like cut loose a little bit, or?
I feel like Neva would have cut loose a little bit. Yeah, and Kamea's there with us too. We have like a ladies brunch. It's very nice. There's a lot of like mimosas, Jars there. We're having a great time. We probably have like a back room. We have a back room at a restaurant. It's like all blocked off because the Queen's there. It's great. It's a lovely time because we don't know when we're good because we know we're going to be leaving really soon. So we talked to Hector Turnbuckle, the guy who had been also killed by Alamir, Kokanee's dad. So Hector was the prime guardian of the Seal and Wolfrine, which is related to Ioun, like the Order of the Key is related to Ioun. So he doesn't know where the study is. The study is like, there's no temple to Ioun that we know of on the material plane, and there's no like high priest of Ioun or anything, which is still like such a like brain fuck for me because I'm just like, why is there no temple? Who's the high priest? It's like in my Neppy to-do list. It's like figure out who the high priest of Ioun is. So Hector
sounds like there's a position open.
Yeah.
For the smartest priest in the world.
Maybe. So Hector doesn't know where the study is, but like might have an idea where it could be. He thinks that that Ioun's seal is in the study. Something came to him in a dream, a vision, this grand library, this solitary figure moving about, kind of an endless library. And he's gonna try, and we're gonna like maybe try, because then if he knows that library might contain all of the knowledge in the world, if we can access that, we can find the location of the seals and try and ascertain their safety. So as of this point, some people from Clore that were kind of going on this side quest, Bix being one of them, my Dragonborn Paladin that I was playing in a kind of a side questy campaign, came to Wolfreen, and Bix meets everyone. There was a very funny moment where everyone was making me role play with myself. Bix and Neppy chatting with each other and meeting for the first time, and I was like, fuck all of you, this is so difficult.
Don't have two characters in the same room.
I know.
Tim does it all the time.
I know. It's because he's the DM. I don't, that's not in my repertoire. So they, we get ready. Bix is there to take the companions that we were traveling with back to Clore to go deal with stuff down there. But the last night before they go, Bix and Letters have a drinking competition, because Bix was like very interested in Letters, and she was like, he's a babe, and Letters was like, no dice, you have scales, which was very funny to me.
Minotaur and some Furbolg.
Yeah, Minotaur and some Furbolg, and that's it. So Bix and Letters drink like they go like toe to toe on a bunch of shots, and then there's one of them that Bix just gets wrecked by, and then there was a whole bunch of dancing. We had a bit of a last hurrah party, and then in the morning, Bix and the other people who were traveling with us depart for Clore, and the rest of us prepare to leave for the air elemental plane to go to Icemeet, because we know that we need to charter a boat from Icemeet to the Forgotten Expanse, and Spooky had been to Icemeet before. So that is where we end it. Essentially, that is the end of the 6 months arc, is us deciding to go towards the Forgotten Expanse to try and find the seal in Manta. We have no idea what there is, except for that was the patron city of the Raven Queen, and that's it. That's that arc. 3 episodes. We did it.
Hell yeah, I did.
Hell yeah, I did.
Hell yeah, I did.
It was interesting. This arc was very much, for me, it was very much a placeholder arc. You know what I mean? It was like a bridging arc. It was like, we have a bunch of stuff we as a party kind of need to get done. Reviving Kokanee being one of them. Callie and Kamea got married. A lot of really nice role play. There was not a lot of fighting that happened except for the big fight in Caradoc. And then we go into probably what was one of the hardest things we had ever done as a party.
I remember this arc was when we really sort of jumped on the we don't roll dice here bandwagon. Because there was 2, 3, 4 in-game sessions where there was just all role-playing, no dice roll. And we loved it.
We loved it. And we continue to bring that energy to stream. We just we don't roll dice here. We don't level up.
We don't level up and we don't roll dice. Welcome to Blackwater D&D.
But I mean, that's canonically not true, though. We've leveled up twice on stream. We leveled up from 12 to 13 and 13 to 14. I will say it has been a while since we've leveled up.
Tim Carlson. But I think
he's in the chat. I know he is.
It's always important to have these sort of stages in a campaign where people can have lives outside of the imminent death. Otherwise, characters, they need a little room to breathe and have interests and connections outside of the mainline story.
I live for 6-month breaks.
Yes.
We love going from place to place, but where it's oh, you can just affect the world around you. What do you want to do? Oh, wowie zowie.
We kind of did that recently but it was only a month?
It was
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks in Dresden.
It was a fortnight. Yeah, it was 10 days, because we were essentially we knew that we had to be back in Wolfreen for the God's Brawls. But
I do want to check in on those orphans that Callie was hanging with.
Oh yeah, I want that too. I need
you know
to
what's
go.
really fun about that arc? It's just Tim was oh, I am the black market guy and I am shifty and can I work with you? And I think he thought that was going to be a big moral dilemma. And we're all yeah, drugs are fine. We'd love your help to rebuild this city.
Yeah, just don't fuck around. Don't do that and you're fine.
Please don't hurt. Do you hurt people? No.
Do you traffic children? No. Okay.
No, you were just trafficking stuff that was illegal under the fucking slave trader. That's fine, dude.
Yeah.
Congratulations on having 47 grandchildren.
Truly. Yeah, no, I am, and the Vel Soom Arc, I think for us was the one that we're going to be starting off talking about. in like a couple weeks after our Tasha's review episode is like, it was such a like both narratively important arc. Like it was a really big narratively important arc because it tied together so many threads that the party had been, weaving up. It tied through threads from the very beginning, like especially with Kokanee and Nepi's backstory. Like the Vel Soom Arc is the reason why the chained, the chaos elemental arc happened. Like the chaos leaching into the world, and it's just like chef's kiss all over the place. It's just so good.
It's gonna be a hard arc to top in terms of like, it was one of those arcs that felt like it could have been a campaign ender.
Yeah.
So it makes me more excited to see where the story goes, because I know that even though that feels like its own separate thing, Tim will find a way to sort of weave the repercussions and parts of it through the rest of the stuff.
Well, especially I think with the the repercussions of what happened with the Matron of Vengeance, like that is still an unfinished thread from that arc that we have to deal with. We're still all branded on our backs, right? Like we still all have these raven feathers. There's this impending thing that is going to happen. We just happen to be in a frozen, desolate landscape where someone's trying to genocide an entire race. Like it's, that's
side quest. I think it's just a testament to Tim's story weaving prowess.
Yes. Also, this book, done.
Oh.
The very episode or session 113, which was not this one, but the last one was the last one in this book.
How did that feel?
And not simply interesting. And it's not because I've ran out of pages, but that I don't have any more space on my table of contents. So I could write more episodes in this book, but I wouldn't have a table of contents to write them down on.
Which is unacceptable.
Absolutely. So
but it's hard for you to leave those blank pages, isn't it?
Well, I'm going to put Nepi loves maps and having so I'm going to put a bunch of maps in the back and have her little doodles all over them of what she would know about these and when we visited them. And because I really want these these books for me are when we finish this campaign, these books will be done. And it's just this is our arc. This is what books like these are what Nepi. This is what Nepi carries around with her.
You are literally Bilbo Baggins. You go on your adventures and you comprise your beautiful book filled with hand-drawn maps and first-hand accounts of what happened, and it's a literary work of art for generations to come.
The emotional attachment I have to this book is more than most people would have to a book. I have spent hours of crafting on this one, and I'm on the I'm having to craft my new book and starting the early planning out my crafting pages, and I'm doing in the new book that I'm doing a Philenis archives of these are all the high priestesses, these are their stories, and these are the tenets and rules that this is the language, and these are the important terminology from Philenis and stuff. So it's just these are Nepi's books, and for me I think it's a real exercise in creativity, and it's also just very fun. I just put on something I usually watch Critical Role in the background and just do my Nepi crafting, so it makes me happy.
Brad.
Yeah.
So what do you think if there's a fire in the house? It's passports, birth certificates,
laptop, and my D&D books. Yes, that's my child also.
I assumed. I didn't think I needed to be stated.
And my other child.
It's alarming that we need to state it. But
I would be devastated if something happened to this book. I spilt a little bit of coffee on this book at one point, and then had to stifle the inner to be no, that's okay. Nepi would have spilled coffee on this book at some point. Absolutely.
that was your rationale.
That was
canonically, Nepi does love coffee. I do remember that.
She absolutely does. Yes. But yeah, no, it's exciting to start a new book and having the table of contents. Where is she?
I assume you left more pages in the table of contents for the next book.
I will. I'll have 2 pages, but I have in this one this book will still be continued being used because this is a timeline of all of the events that have happened in the entire campaign.
Oh,
and
wow.
It's still unfinished up here. And then I also have this page that is entirely empty also. So this will continue to be like my primary book because it's my character sheet. But the other book will strictly just be a lore book. So just more books.
Do you use that as your character sheet?
Yep.
So then how do you add, like, do you use a pencil and then erase?
Yeah,
or
everything is in pencil.
how is the page still there? Like,
if
have you
there's
not worn through the page with your eraser yet?
No, there's cardstock on this, so it's like it's not just a normal page. It's actually
Okay.
cardstock mounted on there, and it's like
Reinforced.
super high quality cardstock. And then in my spell book, where is my spell book? It's around here somewhere. I have a dry erase page that has. There's this amazing creator. Her name's Kimberly. She runs a shop called Dungeon Keep on Etsy. She made me a custom spell card book. So like I use the like cleric spell cards that came from like Xanathar's and the magic cards pack. So she made me a custom one with a like blank like pocket in the front. So I made a little insert that I write my hit points on. I have like things that I can color in how many spells I've used because I'm truly a paper and pen kind of person. Yeah, that's me. For your lore keeper,
Sean,
the lore chronicles.
Yours is all post-its. Your character sheet's on a post-it.
D&D Beyond, baby, it's all right here.
But you roll real dice.
I roll real dice, except I roll real dice for like skill checks. Anything that's like 3 dice below, easy. If I have to roll multiple sets of dice, I just go to a dice roller. Thank you, Google. Like,
yes, I have a dice rolling app on my phone also.
Why I got to do all that math when I have computer? Like, why I got to do all that math? I have computer.
Do you use the spells? Like, do you like mark off your spell slots on D&D Beyond too?
Yeah, it's awesome. Then I don't have to worry about it. I mark off my spells. I mark off my features. Those are the only 2 things I got to keep track of.
Right.
It's
the other thing that's great about it, like I've been using the dice roll app or the dice roll section in the D&D Beyond for, like you said, big rolls, like multiple dice rolls. And it's great because it adds all your modifiers and everything to it. So you just, for those big ones, you just click and then it tells you the total. Though
gotcha. I
have like a weird distrust of the system where I'm like, it's giving me lower numbers. I would have rolled better than that. If I'd rolled real dice, they would have been better.
Now, if that's not a confirmation bias, I don't know what is. So
we go on faith, Nappy.
We go on faith. Yeah. So this is my spell book.
Faith is confirmation bias.
Yes. So it's like made of it's got leather on the front, some little like rose gold corners, and I made this like little insert with Nepi's holy symbol in the front, and then on the inside it has like my current hit points, my AC, hit dice, all of my spell slots that I can mark off, my spell save, attack bonus, and then like all of the spells that I prep for Nepi. It
occurs to me now that Nepi's has some form of spell book, not like a wizard spell book, but it would probably, I imagine her organizational system is not dissimilar to your own.
Absolutely.
I think it speaks to me and letters that I have not actually, I know that Clack carries letters as spell book, but I have never actually thought what that physical book looks like.
Oh my gosh! But though, tell me. You made me tell me what we had for brunch. What does letters?
Well,
as
I
spell
know
book
exactly
look like?
what letters is spell book.
What does it look like?
It's one of those like 4 ring binders. He went more than 3 with like the snap and like all the pages have those extra, where you'd like how you tear pages out? They'd have to get those little sticker circly things.
Oh my
God, like reinforce the holes. Like every page is like 3 or 4 of those like stacked on top of each other. And it's like thick paper to be.
Because he's just like ripped the spell out and be like, like.
Oh, well, just like, just letters is not a gentle person. And like, this is why he got Clack to hold it to begin with. He's like, it'll take less damage. Like, it's not made of like wood or leather. It's just like a bone cover. Like, well, technically it's spider carapace really is like what the outside is made of, the flappy bits.
Oh my God. Spider carapace. Wow.
Are the rings like, have they slightly shifted so they're no longer, so when you page, like how binders would they don't lock
Your binders so jank at that point.
You gotta like jiggle them so that the pages
3 out of
over.
4 line up, but 1 is problematic.
And when you take multiple pages over, you gotta kind of like jiggle it to get that.
Because here's the thing, he like takes them out for like the morning to prepare each one, and he's not super great about putting them back in order. So
No,
like
he
you'd
just shoves
expect
them
it to be like
in.
first
Yeah.
to 7th level in order, and he's like, oh fuck, where's fucking Featherfall? I need
So,
that
like,
today.
by end of the week when it's been a busy week, nothing is left in the rings. They're all shoved in that
Shoved
little
in the
plastic thing,
pockets,
the
yes.
pocket in the front.
Yeah.
Oh, that is
Clack,
so
you need to put these back
wonderful.
on the rings.
Clark, I'm gonna need this in alphabetized and like levelized.
And he goes,
like...
yeah, letters, okay.
no. See, that's not Clack's job. Clack's job is to carry. He is not a secretary.
Do
Like
you
So
who
then
do
do
you
you
give
have
that
two?
to then?
Do you have two
no, that's
books
just
then?
that's Letters' book. It's his responsibility to like.
So do you have
take
two
care of
books
it.
then? So do you have
Why?
like a book of all the spells you know, and then the book of spells that you use, or is there like a
No.
divider?
It's all in the thing. And the way wizard work is you look at the spells you want to use that day.
And then you
commit them
Put
to
him in your
memory,
brain home.
and then you just put it.
You don't have
put
to
it back in the
reference.
book.
You don't have to reference the book.
No, I don't use the book to cast. I know some wizards do. I keep it in my brain and I punch it out. But yeah, so it's like a thick, very. It feels loose leafy, but it technically isn't.
I feel like Neppy's like, the thing with wizards and like like divine casters is like, at the beginning of the day, Neppy in my mind sits down doing her like morning prayers and is essentially like, I need this and this. I'm asking, graciously for this spell, and I'm asking for the use of this spell today. And like, it's all like, while Letters has to just commit it all to memory, Neppy's is like, may I please use this? May I please use this? Can I use this one too? Like, and having that all ready for her.
Letters just sits down with like a bowl of raw oats and a nice warm cup of spider milk, and like just sort of like, all right, what are we doing today? And
Does he ever
like,
make spider milk porridge?
why would you improve on the perfection that is raw oats? Like,
What are you gonna chew if it's soft?
that's so gross. Wet oats? What is, like, is it raining? Like, why?
It's all mushy and.
I don't see why you would do that.
I just had to ask.
I think we talked about it. It came up really in passing where like when Limerick said something about me eating him, and I'm like, I'm a herbivore, and like I think we canonically say that like Minotaur are like omnivores or whatever, but I really like that they are herbivores. Like, I love it if they
Lean into
just
it.
have cow teeth and like
All they can do is
Big flat teeth.
we technically eat scrambled eggs. You can't not eat scrambled eggs.
It's like a vegetarian though. Like some
Yeah, I think
vegetarians
he's
eat eggs. You're
vegetarian.
like
He's
an
not
ovo.
vegan.
You're ovo-lacto. That's
I'm
what you are.
ovo-lacto. That's exactly what I am, because I'm big on ovo and I'm big on lacto.
Yeah.
But if it's like, ooh, here's like a steak, he's like, I don't.
Your boy needs his calcium, and
Yeah,
where are you
it's
going to
too
get your
weird.
calcium from your spider milk and all that good protein that comes from the scrambled eggs? Mwah, like
Wow.
ovo-lactos.
Mwah.
As a former ovo-lacto vegetarian, yes, that's good.
Yeah,
That's good.
absolutely.
Oh man. Well,
coming up soon in the merch store, the Blackwater cookbook.
oh god, I want that so bad.
One of the pages is just oats. Preparation: pour into bowl.
Honestly, like
ingredients. Oats.
You may be joking, but like that it would
Not
be
at
very
all.
easy to put together. I think we should do. I mean, we need to do a cocktail book
Half
for the like
amount.
sassy
Half cup to
genasi
3 cups.
and the calliope needs to be in there.
Calliope.
The sassy genasi.
Oh gosh.
We need to
And
get a
then for
recipe
like-
for
for like
Neppy's
scrambled-
Relashara.
For like scrambled eggs, you can put like a little note at the bottom that says like can substitute chicken egg if spider egg not available.
Can substitute horsehair if spider hair not available.
Can substitute cheese if horsehair not available. So it is like an actual recipe if you don't have access.
I love that. I would love if it was like one side was just like the traditional recipe,
Yeah.
and then the like alternative, just in
The
case.
like scar fusion, like made appropriate for their Wolfrinian palate.
Yeah. Or
But
I
then
feel like we would have.
the picture is just eggs with a shit ton of hair in it. It's just like
that would be the more
hairy
funny
eggs.
thing, is that we need to take pictures of all of that and include that in the book. I need that more than anything. I want
Our
like
cookbook
a
is going
chapter
to be so
on like
unappetizing.
so unappetizing. I want a chapter on like scar fusion. I want a chapter of like stuff from like Neppy's temple, the weird shit that they would eat over there. Like
fuck.
oh man, I want like uh Spooky's mom to contribute like a butter tart recipe, because like Spooky's mom makes butter tarts.
There has
and,
to be like each character gets their own like
chapter.
section where it's like these are a couple favorites that
Yes.
like, oh yeah, what given a choice, what does Kokanee like?
Yeah, I was gonna say
like to eat
Kokanee's
on a
like
day
the
off?
most
Such
boring
a good
person.
question.
He's such
Ooh,
a
what is this? Rice with soy sauce. Nice.
No, it'd just be rice with butter.
It'd just be rice with butter.
This is the worst cookbook.
Just plain chicken breast, not even salted.
Oh god.
Just a plain oven baked chicken breast.
I mean, Kokanee's been a lot of places. I can imagine that he's tried some quite
That's the best part.
dishes.
He's tried so much food and he still
Just
loves
likes
the
plain
rice and
stuff.
butter with a side of
Sweet boy.
steamed chicken breast.
No one ever taught him how to cook.
That's true. That's true. Or like, what does Finnan like if given a choice? What
Protein
does he
shakes,
eat?
raw
Yeah.
eggs.
Oh, a protein Finnan's morning protein
Protein
shake. I
shake,
want
yeah.
that in there so much.
It's like Stallone style. He just cracks the eggs like directly into his mouth.
Well, I think that's our next project. Truly. Yeah. The cookbook.
Honestly, like, we
But I
probably
feel like
shouldn't even
I
do
feel
this,
like no,
live
but I
because,
feel
like
like
this is actually gonna happen.
But
well,
I
if
feel
you
like
folks in the chat have any ideas about what you'd like to see, something from the campaign that you'd like to see in a cookbook,
our take on
please, our take on, or like justifying it in universe, please throw it up in the chat. I will collect them, and you may see them included in a future
Of course, I
cookbook
would
in the
never
future.
do this, but it would be much funnier if we decided what everyone else's food stuff was. Like, I don't really want to know their answers, to be completely honest. Coke and eating rice with butter is much more entertaining. And Finnan just doing protein shakes and, like, you know, kale chips and shit like that
I
seems
feel
way more
like
interesting to me.
Finnan does protein shakes, but also just like that is a kid. Like he's like 16 and also like 6'6". Like that kid
Yeah.
like can fucking eat. Like
Oh yeah, 100%.
he's
That's
eating like a
two-fridger
big
for
fucking.
sure.
He could eat a whole fucking like turkey all on his own.
Like a market turkey leg. Like what is
Yeah.
like his favorite turkey stall? It just like goes up.
And
gets a
also,
chicken.
I'm willing to bet Finnan's got a mad sweet tooth. Like
Oh,
I bet
yeah.
his dad didn't let him have a lot of candy, and he fucking loves it. He never
Yeah.
eats it in front of everybody else. It's still kind of a shame thing. He's like, oh, I want to be a man. I shouldn't like this, but oh my god, caramel.
But he's also
chocolate.
scared. He's also scared he's going to gain weight. So he's you know.
Also, it
He
is
wants to
eats
keep his
it and then he
six-pack.
burns it off.
Yes, that's why he does all the working out. It is also canonical that Neppy loves pie. Like one of Neppy's favorite foods is pie. So there would
But what
have to be
filling?
that's for what to find out in the book. That's gonna be
Yeah, spoilers, Yanis.
spoilers of like,
feel
well, it
like
would have to be something that would be available
It's
at
interesting.
Philenis.
It's interesting that you have pie, but when it was time for your wedding, they didn't know what cake was.
Pie and cake, very different.
Those are two different things.
Like in real life,
So-
at Tim and I's wedding, we didn't have cake. We had pie instead.
Well, we had pie at my wedding too.
We had a pie bar
It was
instead
I
of.
understand, but I'm just saying, you know, it's interesting to me that you guys knew what pie was, but not what cake is.
It's a completely different process. I feel like the bakers out there in the world are just like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? Like,
Some people over at Philenis
can-
still don't know
listen,
what cake is.
I
This
can
is
They
very
wouldn't
true.
try it.
I can draw a line between pie and cake. Like I can take a step by step of like a gradual transition from pie to cake
mm.
that makes logical sense.
But I mean, also wedding cake is like an entirely different beast than pie. As someone who's made 3 wedding cakes in their life, like,
Strange flex.
thank you. People in my family have just gotten married and been like, can you bake? And I was like, yeah, okay. I'm just going to use a hairdryer on a bunch of fondant and make this cake look really pretty. But yeah, no, wedding cake sucks, man. Wedding cake sucks. It's my least
I will
favorite
say,
type of cake.
and this is not like a throwing shade at your cakes at all, but fondant is the worst thing that ever happened to cake.
It is so bad. It's
like
so
I
bad.
don't
Fondant
like
is
I
trash.
I hate it. I don't understand. Like it's not really edible. Like I mean, it is edible, but it doesn't taste
They
edible.
sell it in tubs at Michael's. I feel like I can rest my case there.
It's like
that's
sweet
it.
Play-Doh. It's like
Yeah.
sweet Play-Doh.
Yeah,
It's
it is
barely
sweet Play-Doh.
edible candles.
Yeah, I mean, you can eat Play-Doh, just like you can eat fondant,
candles.
but you shouldn't.
Yeah, you shouldn't. I feel like that's a good point for us to wrap up chatwater on is
absolutely.
barely edible Play-Doh. Are truly our own.
Fun fact, Callie's favorite food, fondant. She loves it. She'll go to
she
Michael's,
pronounces
she's
it.
like, give me the tub.
Yeah, she eats with a spoon like cookie dough, but she pronounces it fondant.
No, I would see
Fondant.
like a Callie and Kamea like charcuterie board for what they take to the beach. Like, what do they take on their beach picnic? That's what I want to see.
Callie doesn't eat animals. Like, she does. What? But she, what? Because Kamea is an owlbear, so she's like, I'll eat what I
He
hunt.
definitely eats animals. Yeah.
Yeah,
like,
Callie would
Callie,
probably
though?
eat meat. Yeah.
Oh.
Just because you're
Interesting.
someone who follows Melora, I don't think that definitely makes you a vegetarian. I think that
I'm
gives
really
you reverence for the life cycle
okay.
of the like. But death is part of the natural life cycle, and all things got to eat.
Okay, so here's the thing: if she couldn't have saved that bear, would she have eaten that bear?
I mean, I don't think bear is part of a lot of typical people's diets.
Well, not all typical people are like paladins of Melora.
Yeah, this is
What
true.
I'm asking is, if Callie couldn't save that bear, she gonna eat that bear?
No, she would have. I think she would have buried that bear and given that bear a proper burial.
So that the trees can eat it. Good call.
A burial. No, stop.
No.
Get out of here.
I'm sorry, but I can't think of few things worse to take to a beach picnic than charcuterie. It just
Obviously,
seems like sand is getting in there for sure.
Obviously,
like
you've never taken a good cheese and meat plate to the beach. I don't know where you've been.
How long is that gonna be good for? Like, because charcuterie, you want to be able to take your time.
You don't want to put it
like,
in super hot places around sand.
Oh, we're talking like a late afternoon dinner picnic. So anyway, this will be in the cookbook. So we should probably wrap up there. Thank you, everyone, for coming to Chatwater tonight. Please come hang out.
The clack section. It's just straight out of a geology book.
Yeah. It's just a guide to all the good rocks he likes to eat and the tasting notes on rocks. It's like
And
the
then,
wine section in a book, but it's a tasting section on rocks.
And that's our show.
And that's our show.
We'll
Come
see
hang out
you
with us on
Saturday
Wednesday.
And Wednesday.
Yes.
You know what? And since we're on YouTube, you can see us any day.
Any day.
Any day.
And go check out our
anytime.
merch because you love us.
Do you think
Buy a mug.
Letters has like a whiskey with one of those like chilled rocks to keep the whiskey cold, and then when he's done his whiskey, Clack's like, you gonna finish that? And then he like eats the rock out of the bottom of the
100%. Whiskey covered rocks. It's another good Clack snack. Thank you,
Whiskey
everyone.
covered rocks. Good to share with your friends. Your gastrointestinal variant friends.
Gastrointestinal variant.
Yeah, your oldest dirt friends. Good night, you guys.
Good
night.